I found this one video on YouTube by Heaven Sent Honey, and the video basically was for you to discover your inner goddess, your inner divinity, right? And then she asks like a bunch of questions that lead you towards finding what you represent. So, if you were to be any god at all, what sort of God would you be and why? So that is the main question. And yeah, so the first question she asked is, what is my greatest weakness? Is that the first question? Or is that just the first one I wrote? Okay, no, that's not the first question. The first question is, if you could be any God at all, not a God that currently exists, but if you could be a God for or a goddess for something, what would you be and why? Now, my name is Zara. Zara is a self given name. And um, when I first discovered the name meant light. And as my life has progressed, I can sort of see the reason why I was drawn to the name Zara and the word light. So yeah, when I think of light, I think about the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, the that aid that comes to your rescue. It is the light after the dark night of the soul. It is the fresh of breath air after you've experienced a depressive episode. It is the surge of serotonin and dopamine in your system. It is light, to feel easy, to feel breezy, to feel clear. That is what light is, and what encompasses light to me. Based on my astrological chart and my interests in general, I am very drawn to like the occult, to knowledge, to wisdom, to knowing, to the hidden mysteries. And so, if I was to be the goddess of anything, I would most likely be the goddess of knowledge, spiritual realizations, mysteries, self discovery, just all those things that lead you deeper to knowledge of yourself and to God. That would be what I would be the goddess of. When I decide, okay, I am the goddess of this thing, what objects represent me? Now, I may not be saying the questions accordingly. I'm saying the questions as I wrote them down and as I remember. So, what objects represent me? For her, for Heaven Sent Honey, she said the object that represents her is, I think, the binoculars. I think that's the name. I don't know if that's the name of the one she has in particular, but basically, it's just to make you see a little clearer, not glasses. Doesn't maybe the binoculars? I can't remember particularly, but I think she called it a different word. And for me, I would say that I had like the incense because I love incenses a lot. Candles. I am a half witch. That means that I like to keep my home warm and lively and cutesy. And I also wear glasses, and so for me, the glasses would be an adequate enough representation of who I am, because the glasses allows me to see a little clearer. You know, me without my glasses, I can see, but not as clear as when I put on something to help me see clearer. Now, if we're relating that to the occult, mysteries, knowledge, wisdom, we can say that the glasses doesn't have to be like a physical object. This is just something that's like a knowledge that you put on it, or a knowledge you recognize that helps you see the world a little clearer. So it is just that thing, the sight, that would be the main thing that I would represent. And I guess technically we could then use the glasses, because I have never really used the binoculars before. The binoculars could work, or a magnifying glass, but it doesn't necessarily relate in general to me because I've never really used. I have used a magnifying glass before, but it doesn't have any sort of importance in my life. Neither do the binoculars. It doesn't. They don't really have any sort of major impact in my life. So the glasses is the next best thing. Um, and then we go to, so what goddess am I? What object represents me? What would be my offering? Oh, I like this one. Coffee, first of all. Coffee, you have to put coffee on my altar. When you deify me, you have to put coffee on my altar and, a glass of like good rosy wine. um, Also journals. Journals, I said weed, psychedelic. Maybe you get like two mollies, you put one on my altar, you pop the other one, and it will trip together. That would be fun too. What are my opposing forces? So there's something here. What is my legend? But I haven't been able to figure that out. Basically, my and your legend would be something that people would know you for. It is your story. And I guess I just haven't really figured out my story yet. My dog is right here, he's scratching the floor, making all that sounds. Okay, what are my opposing forces? Now, in this one, it kind of keys into this other chart about I think there are six of them. Yeah, the six goddesses from the book The Goddess Within. Okay, hold on, we're going to get there. Hold on. Let me go to an easier question before we come back there because that's a long discussion. Okay, what is my greatest weakness? So what I said was I'm so in my head. I am so headstrong. I overthink a lot. I am very analytical. um my ex-boyfriend drew this illustration once, and it was of this one woman with lots of eyes all over her body. And he said he he said the artwork was of me because he felt like I was constantly watching him. I was constantly checking for, just being very observant of his behaviors. And yeah, I think that's just it really. So I am very analytical. I feel like I have some sort of set standard in my head, and I compare everyone according to those standards in my head. And obviously, for me to do that, I have to take note and be observant of the actions of everyone else for me to be able to compare that to my standards. Now, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I'm still growing, I'm still trying to figure out my headspace, but that's where my headspace is currently. I am less in my heart and in my body and more in my head. In that case, sometimes it makes me feel like maybe I cannot fully love someone or something because I am always analyzing and thinking and weighing that person, that thing against some sort of skill. So I think that's my weakness, that maybe I cannot love properly, especially if I'm constantly overthinking love, because I have a sort of idea of what love is to me. Someone does this, um, and then that's my own representation of love. And I see other people talking about that, and how love and how we should endeavor to love our partners according to their love languages, because we all have different love languages. We were all raised differently, so we all have like different ideas of what love is. So is that really just a me thing, or is that now a general thing that we all have some sort of standard in love and want to be loved the way that we want to be loved? But I also have a tendency to overthink and to overanalyze, because I'm just very in my head. Right. So maybe that's normal, but then I just do it a lot. Anyway, I'm still once again trying to gauge all of that. I don't know. Um, okay, so perhaps my over analytical mind also means that I tend to focus more on people's flaws and the way they make me feel, which then sort of takes me out of the way that I make them feel in some ways. Um, I'm constantly like once again weighing that relationship as per relationship, friendship, some sort of relation to one another. I'm constantly weighing that in my head, against how they make me feel, how I feel in this person's presence. Is this a toxic relationship? Because I don't want to be in a toxic relationship. I don't want to be stuck in a toxic cycle where we can't both recognize that there needs to be some sort of growth to take place in the relationship. Um, yeah, so my constant sight could be a problem, which would be my greatest weakness. It means that what if I end up achieving my goal of having some sort of oneness with God or with the divine, with the universe, whichever word you feel more comfortable, you feel more comfortably describes your description or understanding of God, that is supreme consciousness. Then what if by the time I achieve that oneness, I would have known so much and I would see so much that life becomes a little meaningless to me. All of this loses its importance because I know everything. I become nothing. I become no one, and so I do nothing and I achieve nothing and I want nothing and I lack nothing and I am nothing. What if that is the price of knowledge? So that's my greatest weakness. Um, and then we go into the next question, which is okay, my opposing force. So my opposing force would be okay. So back to the six goddesses that were mentioned from the book The Goddess Within, a guide to. So this is my sketchbook, by the way. I drew it out and whatnot. Um, the Goddess Within, a guide to eternal myths that shape women's lives. The Great Mother is divided into six deities. We have Hera, Empress, ruler, wife, worldly power, tradition, marriage, partnerships, morality, matriarch, that is Hera. We have Athena, education, city, culture, careerist, ambition, competitor, intellectual, beautiful daughter, or rebel. I can kind of relate to that. Fatherhood, sorry, father world, logic, that is Athena, on civilization. Now, Hera represents power, Athena represents civilization. Then we have Aphrodite, we have sexuality, body as sacred, sensuality, also two different things, sexuality and sensuality. We have romance, we have beauty, we have passion, we have the arts, we have salons, we have patroness, we have hetera, Heteera, hetera, and Aphrodite is Eros, not Eros. Aphrodite is Eros, and then we have Persephone, occult, medium, clairvoyance, visions, dreams, death and transformation. Inner guide, healing, psychic power. Persephone represents the underworld. Then we have Artemis, we have Amazon, Shamaness, Blood Mystery, women who run with the wolves, Adventures, Huntress, Lover of Wilderness, Lady of Beasts. Athena represents nature. So Artemis represents nature. And then we have Demeter, we have body of vessel, we have Lady of Plants, menstruation, Earth Mother, generation, nurturance, we have daughter, we have fertility, and Demeter represents mother, the mother energy. And together, Hera, Athena, Aphrodite, Persephone, Artemis, Demeter, Hera represent the Great Mother. They are all different archetypes of the Great Mother or the feminine. Um, and so, if we are talking about my opposing forces, now, as I read everything, I feel like the goddess that most represents me would be Persephone, because she represents like the occult, medium, clairvoyance, all of those things. And I think the opposite of being so logical would be being more in your body, which would be Aphrodite. That is sexuality, body as sacred, sensuality, to be so in your body, to feel, to be less up here and to be more down here. Oh, Philly. And relating this to my North Node and South Node, my North Node is in Cancer and my South Node is in Capricorn, meaning that in this lifetime, I am meant to learn how to be a little bit more touchy feely. My moon is in Capricorn. Also, North Node in Capricorn. So you can imagine how that's a little difficult for me because I have trouble letting myself feel. So, if we're talking about my opposing force, definitely Aphrodite, which invites me to be a little bit more feminine and more soft and more emotional. And I feel like for the past 1 month, I have been going down that road towards embracing my emotions a little bit more. So that is on discovering my opposing forces. I am now on a journey of integrating my opposing force. Yeah. So there are more questions, but I didn't end up writing those down. I'm going to link the video actually in the description below in case you want to go through the whole process and go through the whole process of self discovery and find out who you are innately and what you represent. I think men can also go through the video, but it is mainly geared towards women, the feminine, the female. So, and I guess you can kind of tweak that if you are a guy. I guess you can kind of tweak that to discover what kind of god you would be. Anyway, hi, my name is Zara. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Dwelling Space, and I appreciate you spending this time with me. I love you. Thank you.